Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sanket, and in today's uh, video we are going to cover complete Linux course for DevOps. In previous video we have covered how you can create a VM using Vagrant, and that video is the prerequisite for this complete course. So make sure that you have watched that uh, VM creation video using Vagrant. So in this particular course, we are going to cover basic fundamentals of Linux operating system, like Linux file system, user and group management in Linux, package management, process management, service management. We are also going to cover Linux networking. Then we will cover scripting and automation in Linux operating system. We'll go through security fundamentals and OS hardening, and we will also cover system troubleshooting, and we will try to cover all these concepts using some real-time examples which are being used in day-to-day life, and we'll try to cover a practical scenario based examples in this particular course. So by the end of this course, what you can expect? So first thing, you will get a practical understanding and practical learning on Linux operating system with some real world examples or real time scenarios required for Linux administrators and DevOps professionals. After watching this course, you can easily work as level 1 Linux administrator. So here you can see a complete roadmap that we are going to cover in this DevOps journey. So we are at first stage of this DevOps professional journey, that is Linux, and in next uh, parts we are going to cover version control system, languages, then programming language, automation, containerization, CI/CD, and cloud and infrastructure as a code. These are bare minimum skills that needs to be acquired by every DevOps professional. Once you learn all these technologies in depth, there will be a lot of companies who will hire you with a best possible package. So without further delay, let's start with the video. So introduction to Linux. So what is Linux? As we all know, Linux is operating system, but what is the history behind Linux? So Linux is an open source operating system created by Linus Torvalds in 1991. The Linux kernel is open source kernel, and it is maintained by a worldwide community of open source contributors, and it has hundreds of distributions available in the market. Well known few distributions are as follows. First one is Android, Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat. So these are the well known Linux distributions that we generally use, uh, that are being used in companies and day to day life. Next thing, why to use Linux operating system? What are the major uh, features that are provided in Linux operating system? So we are going to cover that one. So first thing is Linux is free and it's open source. So that is the reason it is very popular and being used by many professionals. Second, since it is open source and it provides complete operating environment. Third, security. So Linux is way more secure as compared to Windows and other operating systems. It is less affected to viruses and malwares, and it is difficult to exploit since it has lot number of like distributions, and to target a particular distribution it is quite difficult for hackers as well. So Linux operating system is difficult to exploit. Fourth one is community. So Linux has got a worldwide community of open source contributors who continuously contribute to improve the features, reliability, and security of complete operating system. Next thing is, how does Linux work? So there are main three components because of which Linux operating system works. First one is kernel. So kernel is responsible to communicate between hardware and software. So kernel is the middleware which uh, communicates with the hardware. So we can't directly communicate with the hardware. So that is reason kernel is there. And without kernel, OS doesn't work, and it is the base component of any operating system. Second one is system user space. So commands from user will be passed through shells or file system or CLI. So these are the ways through which user can communicate with the kernel, and that all sections are covered under system user space. So in system user space, it includes shell, file systems, CLI, demos, and background processes. Third one is applications. So applications are nothing but user application, business application, where user directly interact with. So these are the main three things on the top of which Linux operating system works. There is one more there's order to understand these concepts, you need to understand the booting process of Linux operating system. Since it is an advanced concept, we are not going to cover in this particular course. So let's move to the next topic, that is how does Linux OS works. So here you can see there are three layers of Linux operating system. First one is hardware. On the top of hardware you will have your Linux kernel, and on the top of Linux kernel you will have your user processes. So hardware components will be of different types, like it hardware components have CPU, RAM, hard disk, network cards, motherboard, etc. This in order to function these hardware components like CPU, RAM, we need to have device drivers. So Linux kernel is loaded into the memory, and it manages all the system calls, it manages all the process management, memory management, files management, file system management, and device drivers. So all these things are basically managed by Linux kernel. And Linux kernel, like user processes, cannot directly communicate with hardware. So that is the reason Linux kernel is there. And user processes, like if your user is passing some command, or if user is typing some command, then in that case those commands will be processed by Linux kernel. So in that case, those process server server tasks, like if you are running any uh, processes, or if you are running batch jobs, if you are performing any GUI operations, if you are playing some media players, in that case, all those things will be managed by kernel. And yeah, so it is three-layer architecture, and this is how Linux operating system works. Next thing we are going to cover in this particular course is user and group management, Linux file systems, package management. Next thing we are going to cover in this particular session is a would be a practical session. Next topics we are going to cover in this particular course would be a practical sessions, and we are going to cover user and group management, where we will create and modify users. We'll see what all file permissions are there, what is file ownership, and how we can assign these permissions and ownership to the files and directories. So we are going to cover that in users and group management. Next topic is Linux file systems. So we are going to see a directory structure in Linux operating system. Linux operating system does follow a hierarchical file structure. So Linux operating system does follow hierarchical file structure, and we will also cover disk management using LVM. Then we will cover file CRUD operations like create, read, update, delete operations, and we'll see the file permissions in this particular topic. We are going to demonstrate these concepts with real-time examples, with real scenario-based examples. Then next topic is package management. So in package management, we are going to cover how we can install packages, how we can update and remove the packages. Packages are nothing but a softwares in Linux operating system. Then next topic is service management. So in service management, we are going to see what do you mean by service, how we can like start and stop the services, how we can modify the services, and how we can start this like how we can enable we'll see how we can enable services to start during the booting or during start of the server. So all these things we are going to cover under service management. Next topic is process management. So in process management, we are going to see what is process, what are the stages of process, then how we can view the process, and we will also see how we can monitor the process efficiently. So all these things we are going to cover under process management. Next topic is Linux networking. So in Linux networking, we are going to cover a network configuration of Linux operating system and how we can configure NIC cards, what is how to configure static IPs, then how to change DNS entries or DNS server entries for that particular VM. What is routing? How we can add and remove the routes, and we'll also cover IP tables, which is a security feature or a Linux feature. Next topic, next topic that we are going to cover in this particular course is scripting and automation. So in scripting, so basically scripting is a part of automation. If you want to automate some manual tasks, so in that case you write shell scripts, and we are going to cover shell scripting basics, and we will also going to and we will cover a real-time scenario-based example on shell scripting. We are also going to cover text processing commands, which are generally being used for performing any task. Next topic is security and OS hardening. So security, what all security based tasks or features Linux operating system provides, and how we can mitigate risk on Linux based operating system, that we are going to cover under security topic. And OS hardening is basically in order to provide a better in order to secure your system, we do perform OS hardening. So OS hardening is a part of security, and we are going to perform OS hardening on with real-time examples. So we are going to cover all these things under security and OS hardening. Next topic is system troubleshooting. So in system troubleshooting, we are going to cover various things. So system in like when you start working as a DevOps engineer, you will get a lot of issues related to servers, Linux based servers on daily basis. So it may like those issues may be reported by developers or managers or anyone. So you should be smart enough to understand what would be the troubleshooting for those issues, and we are going to cover some practical and scenario based troubleshooting. We are going to cover So in system troubleshooting, we are going to cover some practical and scenario based examples to perform the system troubleshooting, and we'll see what all uh, resolution steps we perform in order to troubleshoot those issues, and what would be the mitigation steps, and in order to avoid such issues in future, what all things can be done. So all these things we are going to cover in system troubleshooting. So basically, how you can check what is the issue, so through system logs. So we are going to cover that thing as well. How system diagnostic can be performed, what is backup and recovery commands, how you can create a backup and restore your data on Linux based operating system. So all these things we are going to cover under system troubleshooting, and this is pretty much about this particular course, and we are going to cover all these things with some practical example in coming days. So please stay tuned and hit the bell icon to get notified when we upload any new videos in this particular course. If you have any doubts, questions, please post it in the comment section, and thanks for watching this video.